I can handle myself, she said, but the single dad driver saw the shadow waiting in the alley. The rain came down in sheets that Thursday night, turning the Chicago streets into rivers of neon and shadow. Detective Sarah Chen had seen worse, much worse, in her 12 years on the force, but tonight something felt different. Maybe it was the exhaustion seeping into her bones, or the way her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her phone to call a rideshare. She'd stayed late finishing paperwork on a case that had consumed her for months, and now, at nearly midnight, the precinct parking lot felt like another world entirely. The notification pinged. Marcus will arrive in 3 minutes. Silver Honda Civic. Asterisk. Sarah pulled her jacket tighter against the cold and watched the headlights cut through the rain. She'd taken hundreds of these rides, each one a forgettable transaction between strangers. But when the silver Civic pulled up and the driver stepped out with an umbrella, actually stepped out, in the pouring rain, she felt a flicker of surprise. Detective Chen. Marcus was in his early 40s, with kind eyes and the sort of tired smile that suggested he understood long days. Please, let me help you with that. He held the umbrella over her as she climbed into the back seat, and she noticed the child's car seat buckled safely in the front, a stuffed elephant tucked carefully beside it. Thank you, Sarah said, genuinely meaning it. You didn't have to get out. My mama raised me right, Marcus replied, his voice carrying a warmth that seemed to push back against the storm. As he pulled into traffic, Sarah noticed the small details that told a story. A daughter's drawing taped to the dashboard, a well-worn copy of Where the Wild Things Are on the passenger seat, and a photograph hanging from the rearview mirror, Marcus with a little girl, maybe 5 years old, both grinning at the camera. Your daughter? Sarah asked, nodding toward the photo. Marcus's smile grew. That's my Lily. She's 6 now. Keeps asking when she can ride with Daddy while he works, but I tell her maybe when she's 30. He chuckled, and Sarah found herself smiling too. They drove in comfortable silence for a while, the windshield wipers keeping rhythm with the rain. Sarah felt herself relaxing for the first time in days, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. Marcus had the radio tuned to a jazz station, playing something soft and melancholic that somehow fit the night perfectly. Long day? Marcus asked, catching her eye in the rearview mirror. You could say that, Sarah replied. Been working a case that finally broke. Sometimes you forget what winning feels like until it happens. I know that feeling, Marcus said quietly. Been driving these streets for 3 years now, since my wife passed. Some nights, you just keep moving forward because that's all you can do. Then one day, you realize you've made it through. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. I'm sorry about your wife. Thank you. Lily keeps me going. She's got her mother's laugh, sounds like music. His voice carried both sadness and profound love. I work nights so I can do school drop-off and pick-up. Wouldn't trade those moments for anything. As they neared Sarah's apartment building in Lincoln Park, she found herself wishing the ride was longer. There was something decent about Marcus, something that reminded her why she'd become a cop in the first place, because most people, at their core, were good. This is me, up on the right, Sarah said, pointing to her building. But as Marcus slowed down, his posture suddenly changed. His eyes fixed on something ahead, his hands tightening on the wheel. Sarah's instincts, honed by years on the street, kicked in immediately. She followed his gaze to the alley beside her building, and saw it. A shadow, barely visible in the darkness between streetlights. A figure pressed against the brick wall, waiting. That's strange, Marcus said carefully. That person's been standing there since we turned onto your street. Haven't moved an inch. Sarah felt ice slide down her spine. She'd testified in court last week, helping to put away a man whose brother had made threats. She'd told herself it was just talk, just anger. But detectives learned to trust their gut, and right now, her gut was screaming. I can handle myself, Sarah said automatically, reaching for her off-duty weapon secured at her ankle. I'm a cop. I'll be fine. But Marcus didn't pull up to the curb. Instead, he drove past her building, his jaw set with quiet determination. Sir, this is my stop. I saw you reach for your gun, Marcus said, his voice steady but firm. And I saw you hesitate. Whatever's going on, you're not getting out here alone. I appreciate it, but I really can handle. I don't doubt that for a second, Marcus interrupted gently. But my mama also taught me that just because someone can handle something alone doesn't mean they should have to. We're going to circle the block, and you're going to call for backup. Sarah opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. She pulled out her phone and called dispatch, requesting a patrol car to check out a suspicious person near her residence. As she did, Marcus drove around the block twice, keeping a careful watch. You know you're risking a bad rating for this, Sarah said, trying to lighten the moment. Marcus laughed. Lady, if looking out for someone costs me 5 stars, I'll take that trade every day. 5 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up to Sarah's building. She and Marcus watched from down the street as officers approached the alley. The figure tried to run, but they caught him quickly. Even from a distance, Sarah could see the knife glinting in the streetlight as an officer secured it. Her blood ran cold. She'd been seconds away from walking directly toward that. Thank God, Marcus breathed, his hands finally relaxing on the wheel. Sarah realized she was shaking. You might have just saved my life. Or maybe I just gave you backup when you needed it, Marcus said quietly. Either way, that's what we're supposed to do for each other, right? He drove her to the front of her building, where officers were now stationed. As Sarah gathered her things, she pulled out her wallet and added a substantial tip to the app, then pulled out her business card and a $100 bill. I can't accept, Marcus started. You have a daughter to take care of, Sarah said firmly. And you just did something incredible. Please. Marcus's eyes welled up. Lily's birthday is next week. I've been picking up extra shifts to afford the bike she wants. He looked at the money, then at Sarah. Thank you. But Sarah wasn't done. She handed him her card. I mean this, if you or Lily ever need anything, you call me. Police assistance, legal help, whatever. Your family now. Marcus wiped his eyes, smiling through tears. My mama used to say that angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they just have kind hearts and good timing. Funny, Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. I was thinking the same thing about you. 2 weeks later, Sarah received a photo through the rideshare app. Lily on a shiny new bicycle, beaming at the camera, with Marcus kneeling beside her. The message read, she says thank you to her Auntie Sarah. So do I. You reminded me that the good guys win sometimes. Asterisk. Sarah printed the photo and put it on her desk at the precinct, right next to her badge. On the hardest days, when the job felt too heavy and the world too dark, she'd look at that little girl's smile and remember, humanity isn't found in the absence of danger, but in the presence of people who refuse to look away when someone needs help. Marcus continued driving his routes, Lily continued growing, and Sarah continued protecting her city. But all 3 of them carried something forward that neither rain nor darkness could wash away, the knowledge that compassion, offered freely between strangers, could change everything. Because sometimes the bravest thing isn't handling everything yourself. Sometimes it's accepting help from someone who simply refuses to let you face the shadows alone.